Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special edition Open Lines program for the Space Show this Sunday, and it's June 11th. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of points about this show. We have made it available to the general public, so I'm hoping some people from the public will zip in and we can find out who they are and what they're thinking about and introduce them to our wisdom team, so to speak. So far, I've not seen any of the general public come in, but it's certainly open to them, and they just need to email me for the Zoom invitation information, and I'll be happy to promptly send that out. Another really quick announcement is our Tuesday program for this coming week is moving to a 9:30 a.m. Pacific time 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time show instead of a nighttime show, and it has a 1 hour hard stop. So hopefully you will be listening to it. This is with a very, very interesting, innovative, and so far very successful company in Europe that Manuel Cuba has suggested to us, and we're looking forward to the program with the CEO of that company. And Manuel is joining us for that program as well. So this is an open lines discussion. Um, so you can join in and as I said, hopefully we get some people from the outside world popping in, maybe popping out. We'll see. By the way, the guest on Tuesday for that special morning show is Guy, probably Guy, right? Schumann. Is that how it's pronounced correctly? And so we look forward to that. Dr. Armin Papazian, who's been a guest many, many times, is on Sunday the 8th, excuse me, Friday the 16th, and he has a new economic capital formation paper that he has written and that he is presenting. So I've asked Armin to share it with us on Friday, January 16th, normal time show for that. Okay. So with that, let's see what's on the minds of the people with us so far on the Zoom room. So Phil Metzger, who has been a guest on the show and is a professor very well known at UCF, University of Central Florida, has put out a list of 20 or 21 uh, items, I guess is a nice way to describe it, of important developments coming up from his perspective for 2026. I thought they were very interesting. I've asked John Jossi to tell us a little bit about them. I know he has some favorites. I didn't really have any favorites among the list, but John has some favorites. So, John, welcome back. What did you like on that list?
Well, so he put out this post on X on potential disruptors of the space industry, both positive and negative. And they include things outside the space industry that may have outsized or oversized impact on the space industry. And the usual ones um, that we've already talked about that we know are coming up. Um, uh, include um, Artemis 3, um, sorry, Artemis 2, um, and then later in the year, Starship's refueling capability on orbit refueling. But just general, his number one was declining launch costs and reusable rocket technology,
Mhm.
and then satellite broadband constellations and global demand growth, AI-driven applications of satellite data, um, and then multiple Starship integrated flight tests, Block 3 with version 3 advancements, and then onboard AI for spacecraft. I'm just going down the list here. Project Kuiper, which is now LEO, Amazon's Leo. Um, number 8 was a ramp up in other Leo broadband constellations, intensifying U.S.-China geopolitical rivalry with Earth, and we already talked about Artemis 2. But my favorites are down kind of down on the list, um, and those include number 14, which was advancements in both terrestrial and space robotics. He highlights several examples of both Earth-based humanoid robots and space-based demos, like Northrop Grumman's upcoming demo of their autonomous robotic servicing system for geosynchronous orbit, and that's coming up in mid-year. And then also in this category is my personal favorite, which is this startup called Rendezvous Robotics, and they have their Tesserae fifth generation in space assembly demo on the International Space Station, and that's going to happen this quarter. Tesserae is that tile system for autonomous assembly of robotic or space stations. So that should be interesting. Number 17 on his list was Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark 1, launched on New Glenn coming up in Q1. And that should be real interesting to get that technology landed on the moon, an uncrewed lunar landing. And then number 20 on his list was Vast, launching their Haven 1, which is the first fully private commercial space station. And so they're eventually going to look at artificial gravity down the road, not with this demo, but eventually they'll be looking into artificial gravity, which I'm really excited about, but I think a lot of other people are too.
Is
Anyway,
Vast is
go ahead.
Vast the company that is most ahead and advanced and ready to go commercial over some of the other station work companies working on this?
Well, they'll be first. So when you say advanced, I don't know how you measure that, but they'll be first to launch.
Interesting that it's coming up this quickly.
Mhm.
He went beyond 20. I know in his list he took it out a little bit further. What was on the negative side that he said would maybe adversely impact the industry?
Um, well, I think I mentioned it, the intensifying US-China geopolitical rivalry. And he says competition will likely spur massive government investments in space. I guess this isn't negative, but it's sad that the rivalry will have to, you know, stimulate that. But he thinks that competition will spur massive government investments in space, including launchers, spacecraft, military applications, and ground infrastructure, boosting overall spending on the space economy. So maybe that's not as negative. Um, Let me see if I can find some negative things here. Um, Persistent supply chain volatility in advanced semiconductors. So space is less than 1% of the global market for semiconductors, but their availability in high impact is a high impact bottleneck for space. Historical shortages during the 2021 to 2023 postponed launches and caused cost increases. So growing pressure from AI demand and export rules related to both AI and space tech make it worse. So over the next 5 to 10 years, this may delay mega constellations and reduce the rate of innovation in AI enhanced space data products, resulting in 50 billion to 500 billion of inhibited economic growth over 10 years. So that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. May I toss in right there the difference between the chips that you get for your office computer are not very radiation hardened at all. But once you get into space, all those chips have to be able to tolerate the radiation out there. And if you go beyond the Van Allen belt, it's like 5 times as much radiation. So you really have to have special packaging for each one of those integrated circuits, and that gets expensive. And that's what causes the lead time, because they want to make lots of chips and have high profitability. And if you come in there and have added requirements that aren't necessarily readily available, there's your logistics problem. So, yeah, big point.
Yeah. So along those lines, number 13 was surging energy demand for AI-driven data centers. So strains on the power grid may spur greater investment in orbital data centers as the
Mhm.
long-term alternative. In 2026, look for pilot announcements or even funding for space solar projects, regulatory discussions on orbital data centers, and hyperscaler interest in off-world solutions. And
Mhm.
he's got an image of Star Cloud, which we've talked about on the show, with their 4 kilometer long solar panel for a 5 gigawatt data center in orbit. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Does he make room for the adding in of energy coming from nuclear or possibly thorium down the road, or it's not mentioned?
I'm scanning for nuclear here. I don't see it. Um, yeah, no, he didn't get into that.
Mhm. Um, I want to bring up the video, the 3-hour video with Elon Musk on Moonshot. I enjoyed that a lot. And uh, some of the things that Elon is talking about, you kind of take 3 steps back and go, what? And you notice at the time, the 3 guys are sitting there giggling with each other. And you kind of go, even they believe it's a little bit too much. But Elon is basically uh, gone off the deep end of artificial intelligence. And he's way out there further than I am. And I thought I was too far out.
Can you give a specific example?
He's talking like one good example. He was talking about the first thing that you ask a surgeon before you go into surgery on anything is, have you done this before? How many times have you done this operation? And Elon's basically saying, we're going to make robots that do the operation. The robot's interchangeable. You just download the operation and they take off and do it. So the answer is all of them. So it's kind of like, okay, there is so many legal and social things involved to that. You kind of go, he's sounding awfully confident he can pull off medical robots.
Would you be
Ooh,
comfortable having a robot download like I had that eustachian tube surgery at UCLA earlier last year?
yeah,
They
yeah.
go in through your nostrils and they blow you up to 12,000 psi and try to open up, broken, clogged up tube.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm going to want a robot to do that to my head, my nose, all. I don't, maybe I'm just not with the times, but man, I'd rather have a human doing that who's done it 100 times and knows what she or he is
yeah,
doing.
yeah. Right now on hip replacements, they come in there and literally use a milling machine to shape the end of the bone. So the insert that goes into the bone that hooks into the hip, the ball,
Right.
uh, and that's being done by machines right now because, um, you know, your favorite dentist who's really good at, filling in, making holes in teeth, he isn't good enough. So,
Yeah, but
yeah,
the doctor is supervising and
yeah,
is there
well,
and managing it, you know.
yeah, well, that's part of the, uh, and then you also have the fact that what are today's newly graduated doctors going to be doing in 20 years? Uh, Maybe it isn't medicine. Big social jump there. So, a bit crazy. Uh, I'm kind of positive on it and kind of uncomfortable with it at the same time. How
So
about you? How about
Elon
you, Jason?
Elon saying this will be routine in our future, not too far down
Yeah,
the road.
well, in Elon time, it's only 5 years out.
Okay, so um,
No, but
does he talk about advancements in the regulatory world to allow this?
No, I don't. I don't remember them specifically talking about legislation and how it's controlled and who's responsible for what. I don't think that was covered at all. But you got to march them all together, which is, hocus pocus land. Uh, just because it sounds logical doesn't mean the politicians agree.
What did he say was coming our way for space?
Well, they spent a lot of time talking about artificial intelligence and getting each um, version 3 Starlink to have its own AI box. And then they actually talked a little bit of how do you maintain and upgrade. And he's basically saying, well, the Starlink units are only going to be up there for 5 years and then they come down. And in the far future, uh, they will probably be upgrading them in space. So he kind of hints at having his own space station. And you come in there and say, well, if he pulls in a aged out electronically logical unit and replaces just the key parts, uh, that would save 40-50% of the cost of putting up a new satellite, which is built on ground and and then launched. So if you can get better than cutting the price in half, you do maintenance in space. And if you multiply that, what is it, 43,000 uh,
Do they
uh,
do they
satellites? Boy, you're talking a lot of money.
do they see settlement becoming realistic and operational, and people are actually engaging in
Well,
it?
they talked about going to Mars. They talked a little about moon base, but they really didn't talk what I'd call settlement, which would be self-sustaining, biosphere uh, anywhere in particular. So not to my satisfaction, though. They probably thought they were being kind of, really smart.
Musk is just he's working on the transportation system. I think all the details on settlement are to be determined, but they did go into a lot of really interesting topics like navigating the future of AI and robotics
Mhm.
and the role of education in a
Oh
changing
yeah,
world with AI, um,
mhm.
AI's impact on labor and employment, um, navigating the singularity and AI's acceleration, ethics and AI, programming values into machines. It was a wide-ranging discussion. They did talk about the chip shortage crisis and the future of robotics and AI integration. So really interesting discussion. I'll put the link on the show blog for you, David.
Um, among
is
those
this
that
the one? Is this the one where you talked about in 20 years you wouldn't need to save for retirement, or is that a different program? 'Cause
Uh, it was in there.
Yeah, they talked about universal basic income as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Okay.
support it, don't they? They sort of support it, don't they?
Sort of. Yeah. We'll see how that works out. Um, yeah. David, I just wanted to clarify what we're talking about here. This is Peter Diamandis's Moonshot podcast for the audience. So if you go to YouTube and Google that, you'll find it. Peter Diamandis and his Moonshot. He was the founder of the X Prize um, Foundation. So
So among those of you here with us, because we're unfortunately not picking up input from the outsiders, which I was really hoping to get, but how comfortable are you in all of this new technology and advancements and even things like Starlink and stuff uh, being developed and strategized and future planned by relatively a few number of really innovative leaders that maybe we don't really know so much about, but we know something about, like the people that were uh, with Musk, Peter and the other gentleman and Musk, or like All In podcast, where they're definitely influencing the direction our economy is going and tools of our economy and things like that. How in the past it doesn't seem like policy was influenced by such a handful of very wealthy, very successful, innovative businessmen and women, but that seems to be a big part of today and our future. How comfortable are you guys with going in that direction, including our space programs and space policies? Anyone want to comment on that? Does it make you nervous at all?
From my side, no. If you see the evolution of the space sector before Musk and this supernova of innovation, we were in the doldrums.
Yeah, totally.
Pretty much, yeah. It was ULA, it was Arianespace, the Russians and the Chinese. Actually, imagine an alternative reality where Musk never happened, or that SpaceX had never been successful. The Chinese will be so advanced over the Western world that it will be quite an issue for us right now.
So you're comfortable with seeing the influence of this group of people. It's actually a handful of people population wise. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's numerically quite a few number of people, but in terms of the general public, it's just a handful of people. So you're comfortable with their influence and overwhelming command of how policy is shaping up.
Yep.
Anyone else want to revolt
yeah.
against that or say
So
anything?
yeah. So David, you may know that Musk is very concerned about artificial intelligence being used for negative purposes, and in fact,
Correct.
that's why, in fact, he helped found OpenAI and had a parting of ways because of Sam Altman's approach. And so I think he wants to do the right thing. I don't trust him, to do everything right, but his heart is in the right place. I think he's concerned about that, um, and we need people like him to come up with smart regulations. We can't just go, you know, um, pedal to the metal on this. We need to talk about ethics, and in this podcast they talked about ethics, so they did address that. So I encourage you to go look at that section on it.
But the influence is greater than just in space and AI. It is in medical, it is in economics and policies for our country. It is in
Yes.
weaponry. It's in all sorts of areas. So Um, I mean, it's probably part of the reason why we're so divided on so many issues is because there are some people, I guess, that would rather trust whoever is in the government over people that are innovative and been very successful in their private lives. Um, but I I'm I don't know that I'm trustworthy of them. I'm trusting them, but I think they're certainly more efficient and competent and innovative for the good over any options that I know exist in space or any of these other arenas.
Mhm.
So I would hate to see a cap put on trying to control this segment of, I'm going to call it leadership, maybe others would call it something else. But I think it's really valuable that it has emerged and is playing a bold public role.
Mhm.
But should it not be supervised? The problem with supervising it is who does the supervising and what kind of supervisionary regulatory rules do they make? And I mean, do the people making those rules, do they even know how to run an ice cream store business? You know, could they?
Well, to answer your question, David Sachs. So he's the AI czar, and he's putting the regulatory framework or helping the administration work with Congress to put in the regulatory framework. And
On
he
the
knows what he's
economic
talking
issue.
about.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to say Saks Fifth Avenue, which just filed for bankruptcy.
I did not did not say that.
So I was really shocked at hearing that. Um, but I don't think they deserve a hands-off, almost go your own direction, free will and pursue without some kind of oversight. But I don't know who is up to or capable of doing the oversight or making effective oversight policies because this group is so bright and so innovative and so creative. Um, to have proper oversight, you ought to have people, I think, that are their equals, and I don't think that exists in the regulatory world.
I don't know what you mean, David. I just told you. David Sachs
Yeah, but
is an expert in this field, and he's at the top.
I
So what
understand that, but I see him more as in the private sector coming into doing things with policy. So if they were to have oversight on David Sachs and what he wanted to do with the government, despite the fact that he's inside the government, how would you have oversight? I mean, Congress supposedly has
so,
oversight, but they're not competent
so
to do it.
he's advising the administration on how to regulate the industry and to work with Congress to come up with smart regulation. That's his role.
I understand that, but if one felt that all of this needs some kind of oversight, then how do you provide oversight for someone at the level and gifts that David Sachs brings to the policymakers? And that's my question. So, how do you provide oversight on space activity to Elon Musk? Or to some of the like Eric Schmidt or relativity or to vast. I mean, the oversight people that we have are not, in my opinion, the equals of this incredibly innovative group of people that have emerged over the last maybe 10 or 12 years and going forward. And so in order to not stifle what they do, but maybe to assure ethics or something. Um, Oversight, in my opinion, should probably be comparable, but it's not, and that does concern me. Yeah,
I'd
Marshall.
have, I'd have to totally agree with you, but one of the things is when people are innovative, they're at the same time changing the rules. And usually, if they change them to a worse situation, uh, things become unprofitable. People don't buy the product. People, you know, the society changes, and that puts a certain amount of a cap on it. But you have a very important point. How do you harness and steer a genius to serve the world, people in general? It's extremely hard because if you don't understand what they're doing, you can't judge whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. Eh, so you kind of got to let uh, the geniuses run and let them try it and let them fail. It's basically business 101. Get out there, make a product, serve your customers, and you will be rewarded for it.
You know,
Was this anything worse than what we had at the, let's say, the turn of the end of the 19th and early 20th century with very wealthy people driving a variety of innovations at that time? I mean, you know.
Well, they got the railroads built.
no, it's probably not, but they picked up some pretty adverse economic terms and criticisms in history over time.
Mhm.
Maybe it would be preferable to kind of avoid some of that history,
Mhm.
but maybe it's not going to be avoided. I think the stock market is a lot better protected than it was in the days of the robber barons and individuals that
Mhm.
could control the market. I think that's almost impossible to do short of fraud. So, um, but we normally will talk about, well, what's Space 2026 going to look like? But what if we went out 5 years? What if we went out 10 years? How do you see space evolving and the role of private sectors and governments? And Mark Whittington wrote an article today about how Turkey is building its own space program or wants to put spaceports into Somalia and the risk in doing that. So we're seeing all sorts of players wanting to enter uh, the space arena at the government level. So what do you guys see in 5 years or maybe 10 years out or 20 years out for space, not just commercial space, but it's clear to me the state actors aren't going away. There are going to be plenty of
Mhm.
state actors in space, and our state actor is looking to partnership with the private sector, which I think is on the surface at least very healthy. Um, 5 years out, 10 years out, where do you guys see space going? I think it's going to be really radically different from today. Ryan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, yeah, I'll chime in. Yeah, so like looking at 5 to 10 years out, I would say the automation aspect and robotics should I think might be more dominant, would be substantially more dominant than today. The on orbit servicing, which was just mentioned a little bit earlier as well. And then also kind of fitting in with like Dr. Zubrin's point about not wanting to send robots to Mars to send people to Mars. We may be having to compete with the robots to go to Mars, humanoid or otherwise. Yeah.
So that's what, 5 years out or 10 years out or both?
Let's see. Well, five. I would say 10 years out. Yeah, 5 years out would be more like the orbital robotics, being able to, whatever. Uh, Orbital servicing as a service, if you will, I guess, like orbital tugs, and so forth, moving, private satellites, larger satellites out to geo and so on.
If you were writing an op-ed for Space News or some space publication with your absolute ideal 10-year out space program, how much difference would there be in your ideal space program from what you just described?
Oh, okay. All right. Let me just rephrase your questions, make sure I understand it. On the 10-year time frame, you're asking me, based on my ideal, my conception of it, how far do I think it'll actually veer from the reality of it?
Which you just talked about a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
assuming your initial 10-year out is kind of a reality check.
Yeah.
So it's still gazing into the magic 8 ball. But how does that differ from if you were turn free space op-ed and you could just right away for your dream space program for the world or the US or for you, what would it look like compared to that sort of reality check you gave us?
Oh, okay. All right. My dream program that I would write up in an op-ed would be much more I guess far-reaching and optimistic. What I would like to see would be more like even more I guess automation and in-space construction, like especially leaning heavily on robotics, and just going nuts with things, yeah, just go nuts. Like sending missions to private missions to, like we've talked about on previous episodes, like private missions to Venus. There was the private Hubble mission that I think we mentioned in the pre-call. But just private missions in general to why can't Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab finance a mission to a near Earth object? It seems like it might be, but yeah, that would be like more far-fetched and on a 10-year time frame.
Anyone else want to chime in into this future gazing?
Uh, I'll toss um, in 10 years, I think we're going to have several major bases on the moon, and you're going to have mining operations. And one of the questions is, are you mining raw material and then smelting it down? So all of a sudden you have all the mineral resources of the moon available to start building big um, Gerard O'Neillian type space stations. And you're going to really start seeing, I think in 10 years, we'll see the visions of Gerard O'Neill starting to come together. You're going to see the first cities in space, uh, low Earth orbit, most likely. I don't think they'll be out into deep space, but basically, you're going to have a small city in orbit around the Earth underneath the Van Allen belts that people are going to be permanently living there and building things, communications, um, AI. There'll be a city up there that's doing nothing but making new AI chips to make everything faster and more wonderful.
So nobody has yet mentioned that you'd like to see faster propulsion or transit times or innovative propulsion changes to make some of what is today pretty long term, pretty far away. Like if you wanted to explore Europa or Titan, they're really a long ways out, but absolutely worth exploring. Um, I'm surprised that neither you nor Ryan mentioned that within 10 years we might have some breakthrough propulsion. I hate to use that word. I did a show on breakthrough propulsion when I first started the space show, and we're still waiting for it. That goes back to 2001 or 2002. So if I were doing this, I'd really, I guess I'd look for developments in space that really benefited people here on Earth in a much greater, much more direct
Mhm.
way than what we're seeing now. And I would certainly look for some kind of breakthrough in energy and propulsion that was developed for space that maybe also had some impact here, or at least could get us to places in in a more reasonable time. Now, I know outer planets, nothing's going to be a reasonable time. Even if we had nuclear, we'd still be spending years trying to get there. But God, in 10 years, can't we do better on space benefiting humanity and propulsion than what we've done in the last 20 or 30 years?
Well,
I don't know the answer to that, by the way, but that
would
would be
anybody
my wish.
see Jared Isaacman last night on Fox?
No,
He had about a half-hour segment, and he was talking about nuclear propulsion issues as well as Artemis, of course, but he was getting into that and saying that would be a priority, I think, for NASA anyhow.
well, I guess that's the starting point for better propulsion is nuclear.
And I don't know what he means by nuclear. Does he mean just nuclear thermal, or does he mean like nuclear electric, plasma? I don't know exactly what he meant because it's not a technical type show, obviously. Yeah.
Um, Anyone else want to go future gazing with us? Nobody wants to go 10 years out?
I'll come in there. I don't think it would be, it might be a little further than 10 years out, but I think they will eventually get nuclear fusion to work. And moving that into space would, I think, make it work a little better. But of course, you get out there, you really don't need the energy. So the only thing you could use it for is basically pushing exploratory satellites out deep in space. So yeah, I could see a space tokamak engine that pushes out to Europa, Titan, maybe
Well,
even go out to Eros and some of the dwarf planets out in the Kuiper Belt.
well, wouldn't you want it for power on another surface? If you actually could generate power with fusion energy
Sure.
over fission power?
Uh, well, Elon's talking like he's going to have robots to duplicate everything. So, hey, you make one, you make a dozen. All you're paying for is material, right?
So here's another surprise. Um, Neither Marshall or John Hunt, who have been talking and a little bit about Manuel and Ryan, but even those that aren't talking so much, where is solar power, space solar power in this 10-year future? It's not being mentioned. Does that can I take it as an implication that you really, really deep down don't think space solar power is going to be a big deal? Is that
Well,
what I love message?
it is being mentioned for AI data centers in orbit, huge solar arrays for that.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be used, that technology will be developed for wireless power transmission as well.
Mm-hmm. The key thing is when you say space-based solar power, you're implying sending it down to Earth. And I think in the future, it's not going to be Earth that's going to be consuming that power. It's going to be space stations, space manufacturing is going to be sucking up huge amounts of power. And they just send down whatever's needed, and it's this small, insignificant fraction. In fact, the moonshot conversation, Elon brought up his um, roofing shingles, solar solar roofs, and he was talking about it, and all I could think of is uh, Solar City, which was sucked into Tesla. Uh, he's putting in a plug to make a nickel off of that. So now, is that really going to work? If, as he said, if every house had solar roofs, then the amount of electricity we'd need would be very, very small. And that would basically be for power hungry assembly plants and so on like that. Okay. that's a good point. I just can't quite see it myself.
Well, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's a few companies working on wireless power, wireless
Hmm.
um, transmission of power down to Earth. One of them we mentioned recently on the space show is looking at near infrared to beam down energy at night to existing solar arrays. And then, of course, there's Virtus Solis. So it's all going to be in the mix. If fusion comes along, that'll be very helpful. But then, you're going to have these ground installations that take a lot of, environmental concerns and siting problems. If you can just beam it to where you need it, that's an advantage.
Hmm.
So it'll be all in the mix, I think.
Does anyone think that this new year, 2026, will be sort of an entry level to this kind of breakthrough innovation that we've been talking about for the past 30 or 40 minutes? Will it be the door opening where we get really serious about moving forward with these things? Plus, I think we need to have a way to manage debris in Leo. I mean, rather than just adding to it, we need some effective Leo management skills on how to deal with that. Um, but or will 2026 be sort of more of the same step by step, but it won't be a breakthrough innovative year towards some of the things we're talking about? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be a huge breakthrough because Starship uh, Block 3 basically starts flying and you reuse the booster, reuse the Starship, and you get the first uh, version 3 Starlinks up there. You also have military technology that you're going to be putting up. Uh, the reduction in the cost of dollars per kilogram in Leo is going to go from, uh, this is what it was during NASA's reign. Now we have SpaceX and even Elon in the moonshot was talking about $100 a kilogram. And let's face it, at $100 a kilogram, sign me up. I want to do a 3 orbits around the Earth just for fun. So, yeah, it's the cost per kilogram that is going to be uh, the bar that, what can you do? Well, if it's $10,000 a kilogram, you can't do too much. $1,000 a kilogram, hey, things are getting interesting. At $100 a kilogram, uh, every wacko like me is going to be coming up with cool projects to put up. So, yeah, there's going to be people that make oodles and boodles of money because they can get things to space.
Um, so, how going forward in 2026 and along this 10-year timeline, how independent or dependent of government policy, and I'm not just talking about US policy, but could be European policy, could be Japan, could be other countries as well. They all have government policy. How independent or dependent will the space uh, uh, movements be to innovate and to prosper and to make money? Um, because I think maybe you'll disagree with me that there'll be a direct relationship to how much innovation, how much profit, how they can move forward to what the public sector sees and thinks about this particular sector. And I don't think they can be so independent that they can just have a bonanza of innovation. I mean, I may be wrong on that, and I'm hoping that they're not curtailed, but I don't know that. So I think there is a sort of an unknown and unpredictable relationship with the public sector. And again, it's not just the
Mhm.
U.S. I'm talking about, could be in Europe, could be the Middle East, could be Japan. Uh, China controls their own, so that's kind of an aberration. But how independent will all of what we've been talking about be of political influence? Maybe that's the way to ask the question. Anybody want to take a spin at that one? Ryan, we can't hear you. You got to unmute.
Oh no, I was mumbling to myself.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it would be highly political. I think so. Like, th there's so much money to be made that, and I mean, not to take a cynical view of politics and politicians, but like these folks are going to be looking at like at their career post Congress and so on. Maybe that I'm being a bit cynical, but so they so yeah, I think it would be that there would be some oversight there, and yeah, just because of the money involved, as well, and looking at agencies trying to repurpose maybe their charters, so like the FAA maybe trying to, and FCC perhaps, trying to exercise oversight in these areas as well.
anybody
Yeah,
else Marshall,
well,
always you're active today.
well,
Marshall.
I come in there and start thinking of how the government agencies are going to change. If everything goes to robo taxis, what happens to the Department of Transportation in each one of the states that hands out driver's licenses? But wait a minute, that's a major block of code, et cetera, that kind of just gets tossed in the wastebasket and so on. FAA, oh yeah, if we can get robo taxi to work, that means we can take just about any kind of airplane, put a box in there, and quote unquote, they will take off and fly, and it's robo airplane. Wait a minute here. The FAA's gonna go, wait a minute here. We lost a whole bunch of our control of everything. And with communications, the little airplane uh, talks to the big airplanes, and they kind of say, well, you go first, I'll go second, I'll land over here on the right runway, you land on the left one, and we'll do all the spacing and so on like that, which means, wait a minute, what does the poor guy and the air traffic control tower going to do? Because he's been eliminated. This is AI and uh, you know state and federal laws all getting mishmashed and has to be redone because the concepts of how we do things are going to totally change. And let's face it, we can't predict it right now.
Is space the leader for the kinds of changes and innovations in future that we're talking about? Or
Mhm.
is AI the leader?
Mm.
Is there one segment that is more or less the leader that's driving us forward? Any thoughts on that?
I think AI is the primary driver for a lot of the innovation going on in industry today. I mean, it touches so many things, and that we have not yet begun to see the impacts of this. It's going to take years for people to figure this out in their daily workflows. They're just now experimenting with it. So I mean, you can see that in the stock market as well. I mean, this is where all the venture capital is going,
Mhm.
and then part of that, then of course, is the build out of the data centers. So that's where a lot of the investment is going. and energy, of course, to support that.
Yep. And I personally see it's a lot of categories that have to march in step with each other. A milestone in AI requires major changes in how we produce electricity. And in turn, you got to turn around and sell the AI product to the customers. And you have to have the customers understand how it works. Otherwise, they're not going to buy it. Well, it's all in kind of lockstep. At the moment, I agree with you. AI seems to be the big thing we have to do first. But changing society, changing the way we learn, changing the way, we educate, boy, there's a big lot that has to be done there, but we got to figure out what we got to educate people to.
Since you brought up education, which
Mhm.
was on my list, we need an incredibly educated base to be able to take us into this future of space and
Mhm.
AI that we're talking about. Now, some nations do better in education than the United States. China does really well. Korea does amazing. Japan does amazing. We kind of dropped down over here. So, how do we properly incentivize and build up uh, an educational base to take over from the people that we've been talking about for the past hour, uh, and continue building on the shoulders of great people so that we can uh, go forward like this. And because if we aren't paying attention to our foundation, which really is education, we're going to come up on the short end of the stick. So any ideas on how all this is going to impact education and how we can make sure that education provides us the leadership and the talents that we need? Anyone want to?
I think you're asking the wrong group, David. There's so much wrong with our education system now when kids can't do math and can't read when they exit high school. So you got to look at the root causes of that and then correct it. So I don't know what those root causes are. I have some suspicions, but we're not the experts on that. I'm
But
not sure you're asking the right people.
Musk does address it. Um,
Mhm.
he's very concerned about it. I don't know that some of the other people address it as forthwith as Musk does. He also addresses things like population shortages and other things that
Mhm.
nobody else will go touch. I think Musk is sort of, in my opinion, brilliant across multiple disciplines, whether you happen to like him or not. I think he's a really capable, gifted guy across multiple disciplines. But I think this is part of the group that should be asking this question because this is a group that understands technology and engineering and AI and physics and some of the things that we always talk about. So we know what's required to become proficient and leaders to take us forward, where maybe other people are not as well thought out about that. So I don't know how you deal with this, but maybe standards need to be uh, established. I mean, that may be one thing, and then standards be met, but then of course you have to have people uh, in positions agree upon standards. That's always seems to be a challenge, and then they have to be applied. But it seems to me that we can talk about all of this all we want, and if most of our educational base is not capable of playing the game, then we will have deficits. So I know the graduate schools do much better than, say, undergraduate schools. Grade schools are dismal, but the kids who do end up in the quantitative graduate study fields are pretty good in America. It's very different than in public school and in high school and in the liberal arts fields, for example. Um, but I don't think it can be separated from education because, we need to replace people, as they age out, die, have health problems.
Mhm.
And we need a really great base of educated people in the West to do this. And so I think it goes part and parcel with what we're talking about.
It has to go to the local levels in the state and in the county level. Um, I, the Trump administration is reducing the federal oversight and giving it back to the states. So each state needs to run an experiment and work with the education departments as well as the unions in their states and figure out what is wrong and fix
Mhm.
it. And so it's going to take some experimentation across 50 states to find out who does the best. School choice might be a way to stimulate a little competition.
Will it keep
Uh,
up with
but
the innovation needs and the technology needs, do you think?
Mhm.
will what keep up with it?
With the supply of the proper educated people to continue in these fields, will that, let's just call it a supply chain for lack of maybe a better term, will it keep up with the demands of innovation and advancements? Because we need people to keep coming into the fields that are capable.
I don't know how to answer that question beyond if you fix the problem where people don't understand how to do math and don't understand how to read, then yeah, it'll keep up with the demand. We gotta educate and graduate people who are competent. And so you got to do that on a rapid basis to keep up with the competition in the world. So you got to solve those problems.
Manuel,
If you
what's it like from Europe?
Before speaking about Europe, I will speak a little bit about Peru. So we're talking about recently quite poor country, no? It's
Uh-huh.
not a lot of resources, but then back in 2006, we had the second, I cannot call it the second term. We re-elected a president from the 1980s who used to be quite a socialist, but he became a believer in the free market. And he realized that we had a huge educational gap in the country, massive. So he created something called, and again, this is not a rich country. This is the public sector in Peru, which back then was still kind of poor, not anymore. But back then, he created the schools of high performance. So what they will do, they will evaluate all the children in the public school system. You can imagine the public school system in Peru, and identify the smartest. And then they will pay everything. They will take them to a special school with special teachers, all paid by the state. After graduating, the state will offer them the option of paying their bachelor degree and the master, under the condition that they will have to go back. They could study anywhere in the world, as long as they got accepted. They will go back to work for the Peruvian state. So if in Peru we manage to create something like this, I think that the states of the union could create something similar for the public sector. The private one, those kids have other set of opportunities. So yeah, it goes back to what John was talking about. In the case of Europe, we have a system which is quite
interesting. It's called apprenticeship. I don't know if you have it in the US.
We're losing some of your microphone. I don't know what may have happened.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit better.
Okay. No, I was saying that in Europe, we have the system of certain countries of apprenticeship, where you go to work to the company where somebody teaches the day to day, and you pair it with theoretical training. So if you want to become an electrician, it's not that you go to university the whole day. They sit you down with somebody who teaches you the trade, and at the same time you take classes. But you're part of the company. It's not that you're studying in the university. The company is invested on you. So it's the company working with the university and with the state. We have a similar model in Luxembourg, and they are looking for ways to expand it. So that's one. Another one is something that the state of Luxembourg has created. The program is called, I'm going to use Luxembourg, it's called Young Entrepreneur. I think it's the young entrepreneur. So to avoid the situation that all the kids coming out from school go to work to the state, because it's a very well remunerated position, but you actually create entrepreneurs in society. So they have created specific programs for these kids to identify, okay, what do I need to know? What do I need to study if I want to create a company for addressing expanding the market? Because of AI, you need to know a little bit of programming, you need a little bit of networking, of computing. So they show them, hey, this is what you have to learn, this is the road that you have to follow. And even though it's state funded, it's a non-profit organization managed with the involvement of industry.
Any other comments on this subject?
On education, yeah, I have something which I found interesting is that looking back as on my trips back to where I grew up in Missouri, and I've been checked and see that the school standards to get a high school degree in Missouri have become much more intense in the STEM area than they were when I was in school. Not that I didn't have electives in that area that were way beyond the standards that were required. But I mean, they're now requiring like 3 units of mathematics, 3 units of science as required. And when I was going through there, it was like 1 unit of science, 1 unit of mathematics. And here's how bad it could be. The science could be a general science course was totally non-quantitative, or biology. The girls tend to go for that for some reason. And mathematics was general math, which is basically your basic arithmetic and percentages and stuff like that. And I'm saying, and now they're definitely having to go through algebra and geometry and stuff like that in high school there to get a high school diploma, even in a small 1,000-person town like I grew up in. So it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of a little just amazed at that in a way, But it's good. It's good. But I think that doesn't sound like the negative thing I'm hearing most of the time. And of course, they require English, like four units of English, and so.
Well, I was in grade school in the 50s, and we went to college algebra, and we
Yeah.
had to take a hard science like biology or introduction to chemistry or physics or geology. So
Hmm.
let's see, I was born in 46, so this is late 50s, and then it continues into junior high and high school. So none of that exists uh, again. Plus, we had shop, which was really great. Auto mechanics, woodworking, electrics, stuff like that, automobile. Anyway, it was a different world. But Marshall, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say, I think the real breakthrough for me was calculus. Uh, Getting through the basic calculus course, understanding functions, how mathematical relationships, uh, finding maximums and minimums and so on like that, and moving on to polar coordinates, which turned out to be extremely it's required if you're going to fly an airplane. You had to do basic science once again. because, oh yeah, the airplane flies different at different altitudes. Temperatures are different, engine combustion. And it all basically goes right back to calculus. And I have absolutely no idea how you get people to study calculus because as soon as you say the word, 90% of the people are out of the room.
I don't know about you guys, but they told me that the first way possible they brought this
We're
horrible.
losing your audio again.
Okay. No, I was saying that they told me calculus in the worst possible way. They wrote this thick book on the theory of calculus, which to this day, if I open it, I don't understand. I can do calculus now, but I cannot understand that book. It was horrible. So maybe a more practical application of calculus would be a better way of teaching it. I don't know, maybe something like what's the name of this guy? Channel in YouTube, he's financed by Bill Gates. Kanakanen.
I wonder if we could ask a well thought out question to AI on how to improve the educational system along the lines that we're talking about. I don't know what that question might look like, but that'd be interesting to see what kind of response you got from an AI on trying to respond to that kind of a question. Maybe it's been done. I don't know.
Well, I'm quite sure they've done it, but how do you get the database for taking 10,000 high schoolers and figure out the quantitative, methodologies that's going to turn the maximum number of them into high quality computer programmers, physicists, engineers, uh, even auto repair guys. And the really spooky one is economics. Boy, that one, it's taking young minds and throwing them into the meat grinder of solving problems. And a lot of people don't get any enjoyment out of solving problems, which is annoying to me, but then that's just me.
Going back to space in 2026, uh, does anyone think there'll be any kind of improvement on searching for extraterrestrial life, or will we end up in December 31st, 2026, and that question will not have been advanced during the year? You think we'll be able to substantially advance getting an answer to that question? This could be microbial life too, on a planet like on Mars or something. It doesn't have to be sentient life like us.
There's a
It's
kid
it's it's all
recently.
okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was just saying that there was this kid that became kind of viral in Twitter that he had identified, I don't know, 1 million exoplanets by running some kind of AI thing. So when I saw that, I remembered a book I read. Oh my God, I don't know if it was Subri, maybe it was one of Subri's books, but he was saying we should look for the exhaust trail of interest of spacecraft traveling in between stars. And he proposed different kind of engines and what kind of exhaust they will have. And he said we have to look for this kind of isotope. I read the book 30 years ago. Okay? So I was wondering, maybe that's something that a kid like that will look into, that to grab the telescope and say, hey, you know what? I don't know, one of Schmidt's upcoming telescopes. I will just run this AI algorithm to start looking for this stuff, and maybe we'll find something. Not as hell, of course, but there's something out there.
Marshall?
I was going to say, I liked Elon's comment on the moonshot video. He basically pointed out that all our cameras have gotten better and better every year for the last 80 years, but yet all pictures of aliens are still fuzzy, and you really can't tell enough to say yay or nay. And that's kind of the key point is like uh, uh, we know aliens exist out there, but the question is how far out, and can they get here? Well, the assumption is we humans can have made it to space, and we're going to be moving even more to space. So you got to assume that there's another uh, source, another planet that's doing just as well or better than we are. So yeah, they're out there, but what's our relationship to them? And that's where things get real fuzzy, and you get that flat line of fuzziness that Elon was talking about.
But will we know more about it and maybe even have confirmation in 2026? Or will we
No,
close out the year and we'll be the same place we are today?
No,
no,
I
we
think
we
that's a
we
John
weren't
Hurt
we're not going to
question.
have an answer, David. We're not. It's the technologies are not going to be um, advancing enough to detect any sort of extra. We're not going to be able to go to Mars and detect any microbial life at this point. Um, the the algorithms for detecting signals from alien life, may be improved with AI, but that so far that search for extraterrestrial intelligence has been a dead end. The Vera Rubin Observatory is going to discover a lot of transient astronomical phenomenon, but it's probably not going to detect any extraterrestrial life. So I say next year you're not going to have an answer. Um, yeah, it's
Not
just my
even from
opinion.
not even from Dr. Loeb.
You
No,
never know with Avi.
no.
If
It
we have
all,
another interstellar object, we'll have all kinds of speculation from him, I'm sure. But uh, yeah,
well,
go ahead.
I think it all depends on a variety of government and bureaucratic processes. I believe the elements of our government already has the evidence. So,
Oh, this is
so
on
it's a question, will they
UAPs.
release it?
This is on UAPs.
Yeah, basically, yes. I mean, this has been around for a long time. It's just a question that they've done a good job of keeping it quiet and disinforming everybody, even if what to believe. But it's there, and I think it's a question: are we getting closer to disclosure on this or not? And to predict 1 year is hard to tell. Uh,
Based on
there
what
are
we've
rumors
seen,
that there.
no.
What?
Based on what we've seen up to this date, we're not going to have an answer this year.
It could happen real quick. There's another possibility would be that somebody actually truly breaks security in a meaningful way too, and that doesn't get assassinated first. I don't know. I'm just saying, because anybody that tries to do that may find their well-being is not too good. I think because this is something beyond your normal, just put them in jail stuff. But yeah, well, that's my opinion. But like I said, it very well could not happen this year because it didn't happen last year, right? And the other thing you have to realize that there are incidents where civilians do come in contact with the evidence. I mean, the moment of a contact movie that just came out. I just watched it yesterday. Shows this Virginia Brazil case, and there's a lot of witnesses that are telling about this. It's very interesting. It's almost like they have their own Roswell on steroids down there. And
Was this the case that was back in the 1970s that everyone?
1996,
Oh,
1996. And interesting enough, well, it's just one of those cases that that even down there, the government was trying to suppress it, and you have people talking now, but they weren't talking maybe 10, 20 years ago very much. it's kind of the fear is going down. One of these guys is old. He's already had a heart attack, and he's like, I'm going to go ahead and talk now while I still can, that kind of thing. But that's not going to prove it. We're going to have to actually get to see the hard evidence. And if we don't get to see it, well, it will be another year, right?
We're approaching an hour
Yeah.
for this exchange of ideas. Uh, from any of your perspectives, have we omitted something, left something out that we should probably focus on for a few minutes? John?
Yeah. In the pre-show, we mentioned that Relativity Space CEO Eric Schmidt and his wife just announced funding for a project to um, launch a replacement for the Hubble Space Telescope, and then add 3 more telescopes to that. So the project is a 4 telescope investment. The amount of funds, it has not been disclosed, but people are estimating that it would be at least $500 million to complete this project. And they would launch a replacement that has a 3.1 meter mirror compared to Hubble's 2.4 meter telescope, and it would update all the electronics and computers. And so it would be a pretty powerful instrument, and they want to do it by 2028. So we could have results from that before the end of the decade, and that's a pretty exciting development.
Where would he place this telescope? Do you know?
Yeah, it's further out than Hubble. And that was a concern because they're concerned about all the interference with Starlink. So it would be way farther out than the Hubble. I forget how far out it would be, but it's in a high orbit.
Uh,
Mhm.
how certain is this announcement that this is going to happen? Is there a degree of certainty? I mean, is he
Yeah,
like
Eric
guaranteed?
Eric Eric Berger reported on it in Ars Technica. I can put the link up
Okay.
on your blog. He's already they've announced it. They're doing it. Yeah.
Well, we need more people like that to step forward with big projects like this. I
Just think of what we could do if other billionaires come forward with other projects like this.
well
It's pretty
remember
exciting.
the one who financed Operation Breakthrough, the Russian guy, I forget his name, lives in Silicon Valley, but he funded that new SETI system uh, that is in place for the searching for ET signals. I forget his name, but I think he built the system, a new system to SETI for that. So yeah,
Breakthrough listen. Yeah.
yeah. So I think uh, some people do step forward to do it, but hopefully, some more might do that, especially if we keep creating billionaires. Why not?
Mhm.
Why not? Anyone else think we've overlooked something or missed something that we should be talking about?
I think we had enough today.
Say again, please.
I think we've covered enough for today.
Um, okay. Where will the space advocate be in 10 years? That'll be my final question. The typical conference goer, the guy or the gal that um, does a talk at ISDC or the Mars Society or uh, on any number of possible subjects. Will space advocacy bloom? Will it give way to technology because of AI? Have you ever thought about how advocacy might evolve over the next 5 to 10 years in space? Anyone want to take a crack at that one? Come on, somebody.
Right. Yeah, I just had a thought. So yeah, so in 10 years, your average conference goer to ISTC, for example, I think a lot of it will be people like trying to like pitching a product or an idea for space because it will be taking into account the access, the cost will come down. That so instead of just presenting a paper like saying like I modeled this or I've got some idea, it'd be more like who can help me finance it? You know, like Marshall was saying earlier, like with costs coming down, like that anyone, I think he described himself, any sort of wackadoodle idea you can come up with, if you could convince someone to finance you, then you could probably get it done. So
So it'd be
Mhm.
more of advocacy would be more of a personal project promotion campaign.
yeah,
Would
yeah.
anyone else have a different thought or a similar thought for the typical space advocate in 5, 10 years from now?
Let me throw
Depends
out,
on,
let me shoot out a corollary. What's Dr. Zubrin going to be doing in 10 years?
How old is he? Is he
Oh,
my
gee.
age, or I
Uh,
mean, does he have a 10-year future timeline? I don't know if he's older
I,
than me or not.
I think he's our age, so I think he'll be around.
It's
Uh,
like in 10 years, I would be 90. So, what's the likelihood of a 90-year-old? Of course, Buzz Aldrin still speaks about space, and I believe he's 93 or 94.
yeah.
But I think he's a rare and fortunate animal. Um, but
Well,
what's
I
maybe
think
space will give us extended lifetimes, so we can all keep going.
that, uh, well, if we
I
get
think,
all of Elon's uh, robots and medical care, maybe we will be.
John, you were going to
Um,
say
so
something.
yeah, I think it depends on how much progress we make and how much advocacy is needed from the private sector to urge NASA in the right direction. Every year the Alliance for Space Development goes up to Washington to lobby for initiatives in Congress to support um, space settlements, space commercialization, that sort of thing. So if we're not making progress and we need advocacy efforts to further space development, it'll be very active, just like it is now.
Zubrin is coming up on his 74th birthday, and he seems like a really robust guy to me whenever I meet him in person. So I
yeah.
would say at 84, he probably will not have reached his prime yet. So he'll be doing Mars conferences and Mars advocacy, hopefully for another 20, 25 years.
So hopefully we'll pack him up and actually send him to Mars.
Any other people that want to have a closing comment or add something before we sign off? Nothing?
Eh,
Um, so we do have Guy Schumann with us, along with Manuel on Tuesday morning at 9:30. This is not going to be an evening show because what country in Europe is Guy in? Is he in France or Germany? Where is he?
Well, Luxembourg, he's
Luxembourg.
20 minutes away from me.
Okay, so he's with us from Luxembourg, as is Manuel. I do not yet know who's going to be on Hotel Mars. Dr. Papazian is with us on Friday, January 16th. Dan Adamo is coming back on the show. We haven't heard from him for a while. On Sunday, January 18th. He has a lot to say about the orbit for lunar activities that is being used with SLS. So you might want to hear about that. And then Zimmerman is back on the 20th. And Dr. Del Popolo, who was going to be on earlier but had to cancel, with his great new book, Extraterrestrial Life, We Are Not Alone. He's over in Rome. He's an astrophysicist in Rome. Friday, January 23rd. Uh, Kathari is going to summarize his Indian talks that he's giving. Many of you know who Dr. Ethan Siegel is. He is back with us on the 27th. And our last guest of January is Sarah Scholes, the journalist. And many of you will recognize her name. And then I can tell you, we go into, Mark is with us today. He wrote an article about spaceports in Somalia with Turkey. I asked him to do a program broader than Somalia and spaceports because I don't think you could fill up an hour and a half on that. But foreign spaceports, their status, their pluses, their minuses, and if there are any U.S. plans for going into offshore foreign spaceports. So it'll be sort of a foreign spaceport show, not a U.S. spaceport show. And that is on February 1st. And Greg Autry is with us on Tuesday, February 3rd. And then February 6th, the Overview Energy CEO, along with Paul Jaffe, is going to be with us. And then Sunday, February 8th, and now I'll stop, Dr. Scott Solomon from, I believe he's Rice University, and he's involved in space settlement and human development and reproduction and human life going forward. I thank John Jossi for that guest suggestion. So we have a full couple of weeks coming up as we move into February. So I want to thank everybody for being with us today. Last chance to say something, going once, twice.
Take it, take a look at the blog. I put links to everything we've talked about on David's blog, as well as some pre-show uh, discussions. So check it out.
Absolutely. I hope I see all of you Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m. As we like to say, keep looking up and have a great rest of the weekend. And thank you for your participation and have a great week. Um, Goodbye. And once again, look up and have a great week.